welcome to today's episode of Focus Atlanta. I am your host, Keisha Lancelin. Thanks so much for tuning in with us this Sunday afternoon. In our first segment, we're going to talk a little bit about men's health. I'm here with Kim Shapira. Oh, thanks so much for making time for us. What do you want men to know during this month? You know, we talk about, things during, Breast Cancer Awareness Month or Men's Health Month, but these are really things that we should talk about all the time.
Yeah. Yes, we should talk about it all the time because men's hormones matter too. And I don't think that we're talking about it enough. And men actually go through similar hormone shifts that women go through. And again, people don't know it. It's called andropause. And we actually start seeing a decline in men's hormones around 30. And it declines about 1% every year. And just because this is the biology of what happens in this gender doesn't mean that we have to allow this to continue to happen. Just like we're talking about women's hormones, we need to be in there supporting the men that we love and all the struggles they're going through, because the biggest difference is that women will talk about it. They will say, this is how I feel. They will sit down with their girlfriends in the evening or whenever and say, this is what's happening to me. But men feel that this is a weakness, and there's a lot of shame around what's happening in their body, and it's leading to a lot of long-term problems. And the truth is 1 in 4 men are suffering from this right now, and about 40% of the men out there will not go to a doctor until they are in trouble.
Do we know what we should be warning them about? Like, what is it that they're feeling that should trigger that conversation, that should trigger that appointment with their physician?
So it would be the same conversation that we would have around women and their hormonal shifts. You might see sleeplessness, you might see muscle loss, foggy brain, lack of motivation. You might see weight gain around the belly area. You could even see like osteoporosis, or your cholesterol numbers are increasing. So that would be your LDL number or your HDL.
That's very interesting that some of the things are the same things that women go through, because to your point, we hear about those things all the time. At least I feel like I do. I feel like women, have these discussions. They talk to each other. Are you going through this as well? Oh my goodness, we're about the same age. When we're just not hearing these conversations with the men in our lives. What can we do?
Yeah, I mean, talk openly about it, right? We need to normalize the conversation that men's hormones matter just as much as women's hormones. And truly, we only just started normalizing talking about women's hormones. So, this is kind of like that tipping point where it's like, now we can also bring men to the conversation and say, this is happening to you too. Guess what? This midlife that you've been experiencing, where you're, having depression or lack of drive, or where you're stepping out of relationships, or even suicidal tendencies that are on the rise in this midlife. This is andropause. This is a lack of hormones happening.
Do you think that some people feel that it's more mental than it is physical, and so they think that that's why they don't have to talk about it, that's why they don't have to bring it up with their doctor? Oh, I might just be having, the blues, or, might be a little depression, and so they don't attribute it to physical things that are happening in their body?
Yes, absolutely. Because most people aren't in their bodies, right? They're in their minds. They're constantly thinking. And really, hormones are what drive all the chemical reactions to everything in our body. But the reality is, it all leads to and from stress. And stress is coming from 3 different areas. 1, physical. So that is a shift in hormones, or pain that you could be experiencing, even hunger so much, or being full. That is a physical stress. There could be imaginary stress, and the word imaginary is weird, but it's more like, I'm worried about what's going to happen next week. And the third type is just immediate fear of like, what is happening in this moment? Like, I'm walking across the street and I'm scared of that, person, or what's happening on the other side. Those are the 3 types of stress. But what is really fascinating is that in every single one of our human bodies, immediately in under 10 seconds, any one of those 3 stresses tips off the hippocampus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. And so now we're starting to see immediate shifts in testosterone from the pituitary. And if it's chronic stress, like we're not having any resilience, we're not recovering from physical pain or fear or whatever, the stress is we're now in our adrenal glands constantly. So we're having a cortisol drip that's like an IV drip nonstop. It's affecting all of our hormones and our insulin. So now we're becoming insulin resistant. Now our body's more stressed. And when we're stressed, we don't sleep very well. And when we don't sleep, we don't have very much motivation to make great decisions in the food that we're eating or in the exercise that we had planned on doing. And suddenly I'm tired and my mind is telling me that chocolate or more coffee is a good idea.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this cycle. And
Absolutely.
and it all starts with stress. And if we can figure out what is causing this stress, right? And really becoming resilient, supporting any person in this place, then we, can really increase our health span.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us hope and letting us know that we can do this. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we can do this. We can do this together. The men and the women can support each other through these changes in our bodies. It takes a bit of conversation and a bit of, acknowledging what's going on, but we can put a handle on it. Thanks guys for tuning in to this segment of Focus Atlanta. We'll be right back with more.